Hi, welcome back to the Arcade Repair Tips video series. Today we're going to talk about installing a power plug on the end of your game. Now, one of the very first things that we do when we get a brand new game or we buy one at auction is we always want to check and make sure that the power cord going in isn't damaged. I notice we've been at auction before, they'll always say it's probably the power cord or something. Well, you need to make sure and look it over very good before you ever plug in a game. You got to make sure that the power cord is good, because you don't want it to look like this or something like this. One thing, we want to keep you safe, and we want to make sure that you don't get damaged or that your damage doesn't get caused to your game. Another thing is that we want to make sure that we're getting the right voltage, that the game is grounded. I know a lot of people tell me sometimes, I say it doesn't really matter if the ground plug is broke or whatever. Well, it might have worked great for 20 years without that, but without that ground cord, a lot of times you'll get things like people can get shocked around your coin mechs and stuff. You'll have some voltages fluctuating and things, so it's a very important step. Let's do today. We'll show you how to replace these. Alright, tools required today are going to be pretty simple. Again, we'd like for you to refer back to the Arcade Repair Tips toolbox if you're not sure what some of these items are. We'll start off with either a Phillips or a flathead screwdriver, depending on the type of screws used in your plug. Then you'll also need a pair of wire cutters or some nippy cutters. We're going to need to cut the old plug out. And then some wire strippers. We prefer these click kind, which are very cheap. You can get them at Harbor Freight for $2, or you got this kind. Maybe you have an even better pair, but we're going to need to strip the wires. The first thing that we're going to need to do is cut the wiring, and we're going to cut it back far enough past the damaged parts. This is some really thick wiring today, so we're using a pretty strong pair of cutters. Sometimes the wires aren't this thick. This black outer coating, or it may be gray or whatever the color is, we like to call the jacket, is protecting the wires inside. One of the first things you need to do is go past your damage, but either take a razor blade or a really sharp knife and cut around that jacket and then pull it off, but you don't want to damage the inside wires. Now, yours also may have this insulation, which you need in this part of the wire, but in the end where we're going to be hooking up, it's not going to be necessary. So we're just going to get it out of our way and cut it out. Let's talk about the replacement plug. There are many different varieties. This is one that we bought at Home Depot for about $4.80, somewhere around there. I do like this kind better. It's easy to open up and wire to and then work with, and it also is bright orange. You can see it, you can find it. A lot of times in a game room it's kind of dark, so sometimes it helps to know where your power cord is, but I'm not going to specify a certain brand or type that you ought to use. But when you cut your wires back, we got past the damage and we cut the jacket, we want to make sure we don't want this too long. You remember the picture earlier we showed you, it was really long, sticking outside of the plug. We want this so that when we put this in here and wire it up, to not be showing once this is closed. So that's probably long enough. Okay, we've stripped our wires. You'll notice that 90% of them out there are colored, and for a reason. You have the green, black, and the white. Now, if you're not sure, you can take a meter and test which one has the line and the neutral and the ground, or just give us an email or call and we'll explain it to you. We're not going to go into a lot of detail and depth on that today. Since most wires are color-coded, we're just going to go with the colors that they normally are. And then another great thing about this particular plug from Home Depot, it actually tells you what color wire goes where. But in general, there's going to be a silver screwed tab, and that's going to be your white wire. There's going to be one that's like it, except it'll normally be copper or bronze colored. They'll be your black wire. And there's always one off to itself, kind of usually like a triangle. So the one in the by itself or green colored, that'll be your ground wire or your green wire. So what we're going to do, just a preference, I usually hook up the ground first. You unscrew the screw, stick the wire down in there, and then tighten the screw back up. Now, a lot of people have tried to put terminals and stuff. I would say as long as it's in this encoded housing, you don't need to do that. Just put the bare wire in there and screw it down. So we're going to unloosen the screw to make the opening bigger. We're going to stick our white wire down in the hole and push it all the way in so that little or none of the bare wires are exposed. And then we're going to screw it down, which just basically holds it in there real tight. We don't want it slipping out. You don't want the wires touching each other. Now we'll do the black. You might notice that I'm twisting the ends of the wires. That makes it, it's not flared out or anything, makes it go in here a lot easier. Now I'm screwing it back down, getting it real tight. Now, as you can see, all the wires are in the terminals. They're screwed down. Now we want this to lay down. And then we close this outside. Now, the outside piece came with a couple screws. And all you're going to do is just screw it down till it's tight. There's a beautiful day here in Texas. Good day to this fall to be working on arcade games. Hope that it's nice where you're at. We're going to screw it down really tight and let those two halves come together. And in the end, we got a nice, clean, pretty job. No wires sticking out here. Nothing but this black coating, which is up in there. Just doesn't give it much room to flare out or anything. And now our game is ready to plug in. Again, we'd like to thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comment, by all means, please email us. Thanks for watching Arcade Video Repair Tips, now in high def.